Hello and welcome everybody to the New Health Conversation. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I'm the person who started the New Health Conversation movement a number of years ago. I really think we need it. One of the things that's so different, if you're just tuning in right now, is that we only rely on medical proof. We're not giving you any opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media. You'll see there that a new study that I actually have here, which is one of 10 total new studies on this revolutionary new weight loss that absolutely is going to make every diet you've ever been on obsolete. Why you'd go on a diet about counting calories is complete out the window now. These new studies are so amazing that men and women lost as much weight in a week as 8 weeks of any diet ever studied. They lost as much weight in a month as a year on diets, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Most women lose a whole dress size in the first 7 days. Men lose 2 to 4 inches off their waist in a week. No one was allowed to exercise. I know this sounds completely crazy, and the main reason to do this is not even to lose weight. It was invented by the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world who don't have a product, they don't have a company, it's not lotions, potions, pills, capsules, nothing like that. These research scientists for 38 years have been chasing the silver bullet for weight loss and for obesity and health. They've done over 100 studies, thousands of people over 38 years, and they determined what didn't work as far as diets go. Ironically, we wrote a book back in 2010, nothing to do with them, called Why Diets Are Failing Us, where we proved, our theory was, why are we counting calories when the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is? So this whole notion of calories in, calories out is out the window. It's completely obsolete. Aren't you just sick and tired of continuing to make a New Year's resolution knowing, yes, you're going to lose weight. I don't care what the diet is, but you're going to gain it all back. And it's not an opinion on my part. Study after study after study shows that. We got people even like Harvard Medical School, and the title of this is Stop Counting Calories. They said this idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist, Harvard Medical School. She says, drop the calories notion. It's time to concentrate on something different by concentrating on what's in our food, not how much food we're consuming. See, we're obsessed with this calorie counting thing. The human body can't count a calorie, doesn't know what it is. Why are you counting calories? And you're going on these diets and you're settling for like a half a pound or a pound a week, and you definitely can lose weight on any of these diets, but you gain it all back. It's all nonsense. All the medical studies now are showing that. There's study after study after study on calories in, calories out, and we're led to be excited about a less than outcome. I mean, if you've got 50 pounds to lose, really, are you going to lose a half a pound a week? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you may lose weight initially, and as you know, then you plateau and you gain it all back. So let me explain to you why these researchers, what they did, why it's so unique, because they really used two new combinations of food. Only 30% from the United States and 70% from faraway reaches of the world like Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. Now, why did they use those food groups from around the world? Because they had massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of quantity. See, our food in this country used to be nutritionally dense, let's say 120, 130 years ago. But over the years, through herbicides and pesticides and over-farming, the nutritional level of food has continued to decrease dramatically. So that's why we're never full. Your body doesn't crave calories, it craves nutrition. So the researchers knew this. So here's the first lesson that I can share with you. We have a minimum amount of nutrition that we need in order to run all our organs, the brain, the heart, the kidney, the liver, the lungs, right? When you go on a diet, all a diet is you're lowering the amount of food you're consuming, but they're not telling you you're lowering the amount of nutrition. When the brain figures out there's not enough nutrition, enough fuel, it will automatically go into starvation mode, prevent you from burning fat, and turn your muscles into fuel and slowing down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on these diets. That's why you come off these diets and you gain back all your weight. But the other thing it's doing to you that you wouldn't be aware of is when you lose lean muscle, which up to 40% on all the diets studied, that's what you're losing, you also interfere with your own immune system. So the very diet you're excited about, you're fitting your skinny jeans, congratulations, it's doing something to you. You just don't see it initially. Because you see, when you're gaining the weight back, we know that 95% of it is fat. It's not lean muscle. So you would have been better off not even going on the diet. If all you did was lose weight temporarily and then gain it all back, you know that that's happened to you or your friends, or you've seen it. And what do? You blame yourself, or you say, well, the keto diet didn't work, so now I'm going to do paleo. This whole thing is a nightmare. As a matter of fact, there's a huge study right now out of Johns Hopkins Medical School where they said that it says study predicts obesity apocalypse By 2030, in 5 years, they're estimating 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. Does that sound like diets are working? Does that sound like something you should get excited about on January 2nd, if that's going to be your New Year's resolution, which it is for the vast majority of people? As we sit here today, 80% of America is overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. And what are we going to do? We're looking for go to Barnes & Noble, see the new diet title, whatever it might be, the DASH diet, the South, whatever it is. You can't tell me that in 1964, 3.6% of the population was overweight or obese, and now we're at 80%, 61 years later? Does that sound like something that's working? So the researchers, what did they do? They said, okay, this new protocol, can we lower the amount of food we give to people, but not lower the amount of nutrition? So that's what they did. They said, okay, we need food groups that will allow us to give them less quantity, but not less quality from a nutritional standpoint of view. So they limited to what you consume. 30% you'd get a grocery list that you'd take to the grocery store. Not just proteins, fats, carbs, salads, etc., but also the amounts, okay? But only 30% of what you're used to consuming. The other 70% you're going to consume come from these 5 foods from around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, South America, New Zealand, that make up what these researchers say is the world's most perfect meal from a nutritional standpoint of view. This is not my opinion. That's what they're saying. They're the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world for 38 years. The top people. They invented this. And they don't have a product. They don't have a company. They're not selling you anything. You don't buy anything from them. You don't buy anything from us. You buy, obviously, from your grocery store, from your list. And the other 5 foods you buy directly from the suppliers who supplied the foods to the researchers in their study. And you know what's amazing? Those 5 foods from the suppliers, they offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. What? Yeah, that's not a gimmick. There's no catch. As a matter of fact, if for any reason you didn't, they'll even pay return shipping, for crying out loud. I mean, I know it sounds good to be true. Now you have the ingredients, but you don't have the recipe, which they also invented, a completely different way of eating. 5 days a week, you do something called protein pacing. What the heck is that? You have 4 meals a day, 5 days a week. You heard me, nothing like a diet. You start your day with the world's most perfect meal, lunch from the grocery store, a 3rd meal from the grocery store, and your 4th meal, the world's most perfect meal. 5 days a week. 2 days a week, they had them do something called intermittent, listen to me carefully, nutritional fasting, not time-restricted eating. Okay, so it's fasting, nutrition supported. Well, how did they do that? No food from the grocery store, only these 5 foods from around the world that had massive amounts of nutrition, but not a lot of quantity. So the body was actually able to fast and continue without any loss. Not only didn't people lose lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass in 8 weeks, and they lost as much weight in a month as a year on diets, lost no water. But that's not the big reason to consider this. Also, in a month's time, hunger for people came down 41%. And blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically in 30 days. And for the first time ever, they measured inflammation, which is the underlying cause of every disease out there. It went down in a month by 25%. You know those little minor aches and pains and the stiffness? Wouldn't that be good if that could be a benefit? Imagine. You're going to lose weight 10 to 12 times faster than any diet, and that's the least important reason to do this. Let me keep going. The other huge reason to do this is because we all have, including myself, this medical syndrome. It's called TDOS. T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for being overweight, and S for stress. It's a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office of a new medical condition. I know it sounds crazy, but what we're doing, I hope you believe this, we're living in an incredibly toxic world now. The air, the water, and loaded in food, loaded with chemicals. Do you know we use 10,000 chemicals in the production of food, and about 300 have ever been tested for what they do to us? That sounds interesting. See, the food companies now have taken nutrition out of food and put chemicals in there because it's way cheaper. That, I think, hopefully is going to change. This new awareness, this new waking up of America and say, wait a minute, America's dying. We're getting sick. Do you know that we spend 3 or 4 times more than the industrial world on healthcare, and we're like 98th in outcomes? Do you know that our life expectancy has gone down by like 10 years in the last 30 years? I mean, this is nuts what we're doing to ourselves. And what are you all prepared to do? Go out and count calories. I know you are. Because I'd love you to put in the chat, anybody tell me a diet that's not based on counting calories, and guess who doesn't count calories? Your own body. But how excited would you be if you could lose as much weight in a week as in 8 weeks of dieting? How about in a month, losing as much weight as a year on diets, lose no water, and gain lean muscle mass? Now, unless you think I'm crazy, which you may think I am, there's no, like, what's the catch? There's no catch. As a matter of fact, I've provided for you. Okay, I'm going to talk about Ozempic in just a moment. And Rover, I'll talk about the solution. Let me go over it again for everybody. So let's take them one at a time. Let's first, it's not my solution. Let's be clear. This was invented by the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world for 38 years. They've done 100 studies, looked at every kind of diet out there, and concluded one thing: you lose weight on any diet. But every time when they measured, in particular muscle mass, people lost what the weight they were losing, up to 40% was lean muscle mass, which slowed their metabolism down, and people gained back all the weight every time. It's not up for debate. As a matter of fact, this is another big article where they said why you shouldn't count calories. Listen carefully. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. And what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. That's what the researchers saw. So they said, wait a minute, we need to come up with a different program. See, for all of you, all a diet is, you're lowering the amount of food you're consuming. Forget calories. The body doesn't count them, doesn't know what it is. Forget that. Put that out of your mind. But when you lower the amount of food you consume, you're also lowering nutrition, triggering the brain's starvation mode, and the brain doesn't have a choice. It has to slow down your metabolism because it's using your muscles for fuel. Are you kidding me? That's insane. But the other thing it's doing to you, it's also affecting your immune system. So the first part of the theory, and let me clarify again, they don't have a product, they don't have a company, they don't sell anything. So you don't buy anything from them, you don't buy anything from us. I'm going to give you the food groups right now. What they did was they reduced the amount of food people consume. 30% would come from like organic sources in North America. The other 70%, these researchers didn't find it, but there were other researchers that had found food sources in Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, that had massive amounts of nutrition, but not massive amounts of quantity. And the researchers said these 5 foods from those regions made up what was the world's most perfect meals from a nutritional standpoint of view, if that makes sense to everyone. So now you have the ingredients. So back to the solution that you're asking about. Then what they did, they created 2 completely different ways of consuming food that we would teach you, that you get to learn. One's called protein pacing. Protein pacing, would you do it 5 days a week? You have 4 meals a day. You heard me, 4 meals a day. You start with the world's most perfect meal. Lunch from the grocery list, a 3rd meal from the grocery list, and your 4th meal, the world's most perfect meal. You do that 5 days a week. 2 days a week, you do something called intermittent nutritional fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, only the world's most perfect meal, but again, 4 times a day. And what were the results? After the first 7 days, the researchers were stunned, because after 7 days, men and women had lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet they'd ever studied in 38 years. In a month, men and women lost as much weight as a year on diets, lost no water weight, and instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, backed up by these 10 peer-reviewed studies. And in particular, the Obesity Journal, one of the top medical journals in the world, they published these results that it's made every diet obsolete, okay? So let's talk about Ozempic now. Let's talk about the GLP-1s in general, all right? I'm not opposed to the shots. They're helping diabetics and they're helping people morbidly obese. But now let's go to the New England Journal of Medicine. You can look this up. They did a study on semaglutide, which is one of the GLP-1s. 68 weeks, the study is 68 weeks. The people lost 32 pounds in 68 weeks. That's a year and 4 months, okay? But right in the study, they said of the 32 pounds they lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. So let me show you what's going on. I'm working with a spa in Denver. They got about 500 people on the shot. Every person's losing lean muscle mass. It's a given. Maybe you've seen some of the thing the Ozempic face where they look like they're an alien or something. That's one of the side effects, okay? Well, they proved it in the study. 40% of what the people are losing on Ozempic or semaglutide or any of these is lean muscle mass. Well, guess what? When they're coming off, if they stop the shot, many people are because it's expensive or whatever, or they had side effects, I don't know. But they're gaining as much as a half a pound a day because all it is, again, is a diet where when you take the drug, it slows down the food going through your digestive tract so you're full longer, you eat less. Code word, you're consuming less food, you're consuming less nutrition, and your brain's going, well, there's not enough fuel, and turns your muscles into fuel. So listen, in these studies, these men and women who weren't even allowed to exercise, they lost 16 pounds in a month with no exercise. So I guarantee you the 32 pounds they lost, It took them like 7, 8 weeks. I mean, you be the judge. Which one would you rather do? And it's all natural. There's no side effects. And wait a minute, there's a almost 100% guarantee. The only food you're not guaranteed is the food you're buying from the grocery store. So I know it sounds crazy. You have to eat anyway. But what are you eating? 100% of what you're eating now is coming from the grocery. Even if it's organic, it's all but nutritionally bankrupt. You need to understand that. They did a study, 200 studies comparing organic food to regular food. There was about a 10% difference in the amount of nutrition. The reason to do organic is less polluted. That's why I eat organic, not because it's more nutritionally dense. This made every diet out there obsolete. And I know I get tremendous pushback, especially from trainers telling me, you don't know what you're talking about. It's about calories in, calories out. Really? We have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and in 5 years, we're going to go to 86% overweight, obese, etc. Does that sound like something that's working? Does that sound like something you want to perpetuate, calories in, calories out? It doesn't work long term. Let me give you some more evidence. A study, we cited, this is one of my best-selling books, Why Diets Are Failing Us, wrote it in 2010, huge bestseller where we talked about why are you counting calories? Instead of making every calorie count, code word, why aren't you concentrating on nutrition? See, on the labels, forget the amount of calories. You need to know the amount of nutrition. That's really it's the only thing your body can use. It can't use calories. Why are you counting them? Do you see the absurdity of this? It's not your fault. It's what we've been brainwashed. It's like a cult. I mean, all of these people on social media, they change the names. It's paleo, it's keto, it's Mediterranean. And I'm talking about medical doctors and chiropractors and dietitians and nutritionists and weight loss coaches and fitness trainers. They're all telling you the same damn thing. Oh, we'll show you how to cut 300 calories a day. No. What about the nutrition? I mean, I get really fired up about this because the science, look, I've been doing this 22 years. Now, I'm not telling you to impress you, but I've written 4 best-selling books with medical doctors. I've done 20 shows on PBS. I did 1,500 live lectures around the world at hospitals, medical schools. They even flew me to China, okay? But for 20 of those years, nobody in the medical world would ever look at this. First thing they said was, oh my God, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet. Yes, this is not a diet. Well, thank goodness in the last 14 months, these 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies got published. They're on human beings, number one. They take a long time. They cost a lot of money. Since that time, since these peer-reviewed studies, I got doctor after doctor. I got PAs and nurses and people are flocking to this because this is what everybody's been searching for. I mean, I have another report over here on this report on 110 different diet titles, crazy things things like the hump lick diet, the false Mayo Clinic diet. I'll just read a couple more. The cookie diet. It's just insanity. How about the F-plan diet? How about the Sleeping Beauty diet? This is how crazy it's gotten because people are so desperate to lose weight. They want to believe something that's not possible. Medically proven, none of these, I read that report. While counting calories or restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. Why are you counting calories? Because someone told you to. Because that's the consensus. That's 99.9% of everything out there. And I know I'm the lone, we're the lone canaries in the coal mine. All we want to do is to make you aware of what's available. And you'll see down here, why am I part of what problem? I guess I'm confused. I'm not asking anybody to buy my book. I'm going to give you a free website right now. You can go and you can see all the medical proof for free. You don't have to buy a thing. So when you make an accusation, at least have some basis behind it. Did I ever tell you to buy my book? I've written 4 of them. On the website, there's no books on there. There's nothing to buy. Part of the problem, when you're talking about 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies, irrefutable evidence. You can have an argument with yourself, have a wonderful discussion about I'd love to know what your solution is to 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, 50% of our kids overweight, and a third of those are pre-diabetic or diabetic. That sounds like really we're really doing well here. This is the first breakthrough in history, cracking the code on obesity, health, and weight loss. Now, again, if you don't believe in science, okay, it's fine. You can have whatever opinion you want. You can have whatever opinion of me. It's not about me. I don't want anybody to believe me. That's why we did it on purpose on the website. We didn't put my books on there. There's nothing to buy. You can go, everybody can go there and see the medical proof for free. And only then, because we won't contact you if you go to our website. The medical proof, including an interview with the #1 weight loss nutrition physiologist in the world for 38 years, saying, based on this new findings, they'll never recommend any form of traditional diet to anyone ever again. I mean, that's all I can tell you. It's not my opinion. My opinion shouldn't matter, right? So what do I need to do, Squire? Well, the first thing you'd want to do is to go to the New Health Conversation and look at the medical proof for yourself. What's there? There's about a 20-minute walkthrough of more detail about what they did like on a daily basis, the food list. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. And there are before and afters on there that'll so shock you. People, men and women who lost 100 pounds, they have no loose skin. I couldn't even show them. If I showed them here on social media, I mean, I'd get banned. And I love TikTok and I want to stay with the rules. But see, we're only presenting you original research. Nothing is my opinion. People are giving me opinions and I get pushed back and people like that, I'm part of the problem. Really? Really? What? Wait a minute. Do you have 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies on any weight loss program ever showing any results that even resembled this? Where in essence, one of the things they proved through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, that this was assisting the body in removing the chemicals we're storing inside of ourselves, that we're breathing, we're drinking, we're eating. That's the thing you should guard against. This medical syndrome, registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, is a new medical condition. T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for overweight, S for stress. I have it. Every person in the world has it. You can't be alive and not have the TDOS syndrome. Did you all see the thing on Starbucks coffee about 8 weeks ago, where in 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, you're getting 25,000 microplastics in every cup? And I like Starbucks coffee. This is the world we're living in. Wake up. How could we be at 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic if any of these things worked long term? They don't. And when you've got people like Harvard Medical School say, stop counting calories. Most people have been taught that losing weight is a matter of simple math. Cut calories, specifically 3,500, and you lose a pound. But as it turns out, experts are learning that this decades-old strategy is totally misguided. That's Harvard Medical School. That's not my opinion. Well, how could I be part of the problem? I'm exposing what is the reality in terms of medical analysis. There are, I don't know, maybe 100 studies or more on, calories in, calories out. And they want you to celebrate, horrible results. Let me give you an example. Here's the New England Journal of Medicine. This is a 12-month study. One group of people just lowered calories, your typical diet. The other one did this, big rage now. You don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. Oh, really? It's just a diet. I'm going to prove it to you. New England Journal of Medicine, the first group who just lowered calories in a year, lost on average about 16 pounds. The people who did time-restricted eating, not eating for 16 hours, eating for 8, they only lost 12.6 pounds in a year. And they said right here that the majority of what the people lost by lowering calories or doing time-restricted eating was lean muscle mass. These are not opinions. So when people, and I understand, it sounds too good to be true. There's so much nonsense out there on social media. But go to Walmart, go to Kmart, go to Costco. Look at America. Look what's happening. And we're talking in 5 years, obesity apocalypse, according to Johns Hopkins Medical School, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. Does that sound like something that's working? Does that sound like something you want to do starting with your New Year's resolution? It's up to you. We're not here to convince you. We're not here to sell you. Like I said, on that website, there's nothing to buy. We did it on purpose. We wanted you to have free access to the medical proof first. Then and only then, if you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free consultation with one of our coaches. It's 100% free. Not just the initial consultation, but all the way through. And like I said before, 70% of what you're going to spend is 100% guaranteed by the suppliers. You don't buy from us. You don't buy from the researchers. Aren't you just a little bit curious? Don't let your skepticism prevent you from changing the rest of your life. Look, I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks 22 years ago. I've kept it off for 22 years. Shouldn't that be of interest to you? That's not up to me. It's up to you. But the point is that we keep, minimalistic. No, it's not about no sugar. No, minimalistic. It's sugar. Yes, sugar's a huge problem. So squirrel, I just went over that. So again, let me explain it to you again. for everybody, okay? These researchers, just to let you know, minimalistic, they're the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world. If you don't know what the physiologists, why that's so important, they study the interaction of these nutrients once they enter the body. Nutritionists tell you you can take this from outside, okay? So it's a very rare common, but they're the top researchers in the world. They created this, and they don't have a product, they don't have a company, they're just scientists. So essentially what they figured out was why diets can't possibly work is because it's really based on against human survival. See, we need a minimum amount of nutrition in order to run all of our organs, brain, kidney, liver, heart. The sugar thing, let's leave that to the side for right now. When you go on a diet, all you're doing is reducing the amount of food you're consuming, which by definition, you're reducing the amount of nutrition. The problem is when you reduce the nutrition, the fuel, the brain senses that and immediately panics and goes in survival mode, starvation mode, prevents you from burning fat and turns to your muscles for fuel. And then it doesn't have a choice. The fuel is so inefficient, it slows down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on diets. That's why you come off, you gain everything back. But a worse outcome for diets is you also impact your own immune system. Yes, the very diet you think is doing something for you is doing something to you in a really bad way. And when people gain back all their weight, which they do, 95% is fat. It's not lean muscle. So it's not like you get your metabolism back to where it was. As a matter of fact, the experts say for every pound of lean muscle you lose, it takes you about 12 months even you go to the gym and you do everything right. So let's say you lose 20 pounds in a month, or on a diet, it would take you 2 or 3 months. If 40% of that's lean muscle, that's 8 pounds. They're saying it would take you 8 years to recover. Do you see what we're doing to ourselves? That's why 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic. It's not that people aren't going on diets. It's not that they're doing diet and exercise and all these things. None of them work long term. That's what they said in this study. Why counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term. The approach has never been proven to keep weight off in the long term, and 2/3 of people who restrict or count calories gain back more weight than they lost. Those are not opinions on my part, okay? Now, so what did the researchers do? They said, okay, can we come up with a new protocol where we could lower the amount of food people consume, but not lower the amount of nutrition? Easier said than done. So here's what they did. They limited the amount of food you'd consume to 30% you'd buy organic from food sources in the United States. Then these researchers found other researchers who found foods from Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand that had massive amounts of nutrition. And as the researchers said, these 5 food groups created the world's most perfect meal. So now you had the ingredients, okay, minimalistic, just to show you, okay? So now we have but as you know, if you're gonna cook something, the ingredients are one thing, you gotta have a recipe. So they created, in essence, a new way of consuming food, 2 different ways. First, 5 days a week, they did something called protein pacing. 5 days a week, you actually have 4 meals a day, completely different than a diet. You start out with the world's most perfect meal for breakfast. You have a lunch from the grocery list. You have a 3rd meal from the grocery list, and your 4th meal is the world's most perfect meal, 5 days a week. 2 days a week, you do something completely crazy when I tell you, intermittent nutritional fasting, not time-restricted eating. On those days, no food from the grocery store, only these 5 food sources 4 times a day, about every 3 hours. And what were the results? In the first 7 days, the researchers were shocked. When they weighed in, men and women had lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet they'd ever studied in nearly 40 years. In a month, men and women lost as much weight as people lost on diets in a year with no loss of water and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And that's not even the good part. In a month's time, hunger came down 41% in 30 days. Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically in 30 days. And for the first time ever, they proved and measured inflammation. It came down 25% in 30 days. In case you didn't know, inflammation is the underlying cause of every disease out there. And we're not here to treat, diagnose, cure any diseases. That's not what we're doing. You got to understand that they'd never, in 38 years, they had never seen anything like this. But the other thing, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they also proved that this was assisting the body in doing what? Removing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and plastics from our bodies. Do you think that's a pretty good idea? See, the main reason to do this is not to fit in your skinny jeans. That's like, we almost laugh. You're going to lose weight 8, 10, 12 times faster than any diet you've ever been on, but you're losing it safely. You're losing no lean muscle mass. No diet. No, all these diets, when they look at the analysis, I mean, here's another big study that was done in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This study was 12 months. And there were 48 different studies, 7,286 people over 12 months. And they named, over the 48 studies that they analyzed, every diet out there, from paleo to keto to Mediterranean to time restricted eating to Cornish to zone, eat for your blood type, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, across the board. In 12 months, when they looked at the most amount of weight loss to the least amount of weight loss, the difference from diet to diet in a year was 10 ounces. And they said right here that the average weight loss was about 16 pounds in a year, and up to 40% of what people lost was lean muscle mass. This is what's going on. And you wonder why? We have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. Does this make sense to everyone? Everybody can afford it. Oh, Oana. Okay, well, I'll explain it to you again. Okay, so for everybody, let me review one more time. Do you all understand that a diet has nothing to do with calorie counting? Okay, let's get that out of the way. Calorie is just a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. It has nothing to do with the body. The body only cares about one thing, and that's nutrition. And all of us, as we sit here today, we have a minimum amount of nutrition that our body requires in order to run the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, all of our organs, right? These researchers, the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world for 38 years, the top people, they created this. And it's not a product, it's not a lotion, potion, pill. They don't have a company. It's a completely different way of combining food groups and a different way of consuming food. Let me go over that with you. So what they did, or the theory was, could we lower the amount of food we gave to people, but not lower the amount of nutrition? So the one thing they knew, they couldn't do it with 100% of the food from North America, because our food in North America, in case you didn't know, is becoming more and more nutritionally insufficient, nearly bankrupt of nutrition. So they limit the amount of food you'd consume to 30% you'd buy, and you get a grocery list. You go to the grocery store, fats, proteins, carbs, etc. But not just but also the amounts, okay? Then the other 70% comes from 5 food groups that these researchers, we don't sell it to you, they don't sell it to you, but these suppliers who had supplied to the medical studies found 5 food groups in Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, and South America and New Zealand that represented and made up the world's most perfect meal, okay? So now you have the ingredients, 30% from the store, 70% from these 5 foods from around the world that you can't buy in the store, okay? It doesn't exist. Then they had to create, let's call it the recipe, or what did they do? 5 days a week, they did something called protein pacing. What the heck's that? 5 days a week, they had 4 meals a day. You heard me. Complete. It's not a diet. They started the day with the world's most perfect meal. Lunch from the grocery list. A third meal from the grocery list. And the last meal of the day, the 4th meal, the world's most perfect meal. 5 days a week, you do that. 2 days a week, you do something called intermittent nutritional fasting. What the heck is that? It's not fasting. It's not time-restricted eating. It's fasting with nutrition. How did they pull that off? First, no food from your grocery store. Only these 5 foods, the world's most perfect meal, 4 times a day, about every 3 hours over the course of the day. That's what they did. And what were the results? In the first 7 days, men and women lost as much weight as they'd ever seen in 38 years of research in 8 weeks on any diet. Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days. Most men 2 to 4 inches off their waist. No one was allowed to exercise. You heard me. No exercise allowed, because they didn't want exercise to be part of this. Then in a month, people lost as much weight, men and women, as they'd seen in studies in a year on typical diets, with no loss of water and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But that's not the main reason to do it, believe it or not. I know that would really excite you as that number on the scale moves to the left if you still have an old-fashioned scale. If it's digital, you just want to see the numbers go down, right? I mean, and you got to understand, it's backed by 10, published in 10 of the biggest medical journals in the world. This is not a sales gimmick. This is not an infomercial. This is real science. And like I said, they don't have a product. They don't have a company. This is not a lotion, potion, pill, capsule. No, it doesn't work like that. They're using real food in a completely new engineered way of consuming it. They didn't know. It was a theory. They didn't know if it was going to work. I mean, thank God it did, because I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks 22 years ago. But the thing I want to tell you, I've been a nutritional researcher for 22 years. I've written 4 best-selling books with some of the top medical doctors in the world. I did 20 shows on PBS. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. And I did over 1,500 live lectures around the world at universities and medical schools. They even flew me to China. I'm not telling you to impress you. I won't impress upon you. But none of that mattered for 20 years. Zero in the medical world. Until these studies, which started about 6 or 7 years ago, got published. Now medical doctors and I mean, the biggest thing we're facing is the shock value. This is not possible. It's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast. And then they look at the medical studies and they see the proof that people did not lose lean muscle mass, did not lose water weight. It was a miracle in a sense, right? Aren't you, and all of you, okay, hold on just a second. I'm going to put the website where you all can go and see for free, and I'll answer your question about the 5 foods. So basically what you remember what I said, the meal consisted of the world's most perfect meal from a nutritional standpoint of view. So the foods contain these nutrients in quantities and in some cases that just aren't available in North America. So let me go over it just briefly with you. One of the first things that we're the most deficient in case you didn't know, even in organic food, are what are called trace ionic minerals. Now, I'm not talking about iron, calcium, magnesium. There are 70 that we need. Things like, believe it or not, gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and selenium and molybdenum, okay? In the best organic measured, you get 20 out of 70. 20. So no matter how much food you eat, you're still getting 20. The researchers found a food source that had all 70 minerals. Number 2, amino acids have been called the building blocks of life. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, maybe you're not. But an amino acid is necessary for the body to make what's called human proteins, okay? How do we get an amino acid? There are 20 total, 9 that are called essential. You have to get them from your diet. The other 11 are non-essential. So the key becomes that you get amino acids in proteins, either from plants, animal, or animals. Now, the fallacy is they're telling you, well, ingest 120 grams of protein a day. Well, that's out the window now. New research out of Europe, they developed a new test. It's called net nitrogen utilization, where when you ingest a protein, you get all 20 amino acids. But that doesn't matter to your body. What your body cares about it, from a scale of 0 to 100, what percentage of the 20 is actually being utilized by your body. This makes vegans mad. Vegan proteins, when they measured the absorption of the 20 amino acids, is only 10%. 90% is toxic waste that the kidneys have to deal with. I'll come back to that in a moment. Let's go to all animal proteins, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc. 30%. The 70% that's not converted into amino acids are turned into what are called nitrogen catabolites, toxins that your kidneys have to get rid of. That's why when people are on kidney dialysis, they really limit the amount of protein that they have, right? So these researchers, they found a source, again, of protein that had a 91% absorption, okay? Third, the other thing that we need, and you're probably all taking a multivitamin or vitamin, but you understand that 95% of all the vitamins on the shelf are synthetic, made in a laboratory. Again, they found a source where it had 21 naturally occurring vitamins, nothing synthetic, okay? And the fourth thing that they found, this comes from Manchuria in Russia, what are called adaptogens. Now, what the heck are those? What they do, adaptogens lower stress in your body, and more importantly, they're responsible for lowering inflammation. Now, rather than you think it's just a talking point, in the medical studies, like I said, they proved that inflammation went down 25% in 30 days, never seen before. So those nutrients make up the world's most perfect meals from a nutritional standpoint of view. So hopefully that answers your question, et cetera. But again, for all of you, you can go, you can see it right there, the New Health Conversation. There's nothing to buy there. We're not going to contact you if you go there. We want you to go and be able to have access to the medical proof. There's nothing to buy. If once you look at the medical proof, you decide, wow, I want to know more, then you can sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. Now, not only is it free, but also if you decide to do it, that coach will be there the whole time. Now, so 30% of what you'd buy is from the grocery store. You get a grocery list, nothing to do with us. The other 5 foods you buy directly from the suppliers, not from us. We have nothing to do with that. And then we show you exactly how to implement this protocol. Because 50% is what you're going to consume, but the other 50%, let's call it the recipe, which you know in cooking, that's really critical, you know. And I know it sounds too good to be true, but again, I'd love for anybody else to put in the chat a diet that you think works in the long run, which flies in the face of all the research, like why you shouldn't count calories. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict calories gain back more weight than they lost. But it's not just one study or 2 studies. Here's the third one. The title of this one is aptly put, I think. It's don't bother counting calories. It's complete nonsense. Notice they start the analysis with the word inevitable. Inevitably, sorry. Inevitably, more than 95% of people will go back to their baseline weight and many will go above it. They rebound back if they're doing any form of calorie restricted diet. Why would you, after this podcast, why would you ever do a traditional diet again? I'd like to know. Seriously. Now, in fairness to you, you haven't gone to see the medical proof. But unless you think I'm lying about it, and on social media, I'd be outed in a second if it wasn't true that when you go to that website, we don't contact you. There's an interview, okay? An interview with the #1 weight loss nutrition physiologist in the world, who he and his team are the ones that invented this. And he says in the interview, they will never recommend to their patients any form of traditional diet ever again. He said, Peter, it would be unethical. Why would we put you on, let's just say, ONA, for example. Why would they put you on a diet that would take you 8 weeks to lose weight in the most unhealthy way when you could lose that much weight in 7 days, lose a whole dress size in 7 days, lose as much weight in a month as a year on diets, lose no water, and gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass? Does that make sense? So, does anybody else have any additional questions? I'm not stopping yet. Maybe some of you wish I would, but I'm not. I'm going to go a little bit longer here, but I would love to. Hello, Patrick. Hello, user 215. Look, I understand what I'm fighting is. It sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Where's the other shoe? There's no other catches. Because when you're talking about peer-reviewed human trial studies, it's irrefutable evidence. And for the one person before that said, let's see. They said that I'm part of the problem. Am I part of the problem when all I'm doing is I'm giving you real information, not fake news, right? And I'm not saying that the influences on here are misleading you. They're telling you what they think they know. You have to understand that these researchers, for 38 years, that's what they were telling people. They were putting people on diets by lowering the amount of food they were consuming, and people lost weight, but they gained it all back. Every time in 38 years. Do you think eventually they said, wait a minute, what we're doing is not working? You know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's what we're doing. Again, it's not a joke. The Obesity Journal, it's one of the top journals in the world. And they compare, actually in the study, they compared it to so there were two groups of people in this one of 10 of the published studies. They took the people on this protocol, which is called R2M, stands for race to maintenance. See, that's the cool thing about this. It's not, can we get the weight off you? Once we get the weight off you, you're at the end of the beginning. The key to this is to be able to maintain it. That's why it's called R2M, race to maintenance. So in these studies, where they took one group of people doing R2M, the other did the Mediterranean diet. In case you don't know, it's been voted the #1 diet 7 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report. The #1 diet. The researchers said, hey, if we're going to do a comparison, let's go up against the #1 diet. Okay? On the Mediterranean diet, it took people 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds, of which 40% was lean muscle mass. And when they followed up 6 months later, all the people gained that 10 pounds back. In these studies, which were started actually 6 or 7 years ago, I mean, these people lost 16 pounds in a month. And instead of losing any lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And they've been following them now for 6 years. They've maintained whatever they've lost. They've been able to maintain it. That's the only reason to do this. Otherwise, go on a stupid diet, you lose the weight and gain it all back, and then you look for a new diet. That one didn't work. It had nothing to do with you. It's completely the wrong approach. There's no diet that I know of that's not some form of reducing the amount of food, whether it's counting carbs or macros. It's all nonsense. I mean, based on the outcomes, based on 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, why wouldn't you at least go to the website and look at the free, what do you think? I'm going to lie to you? We're going to go there, we're going to call you up. Hey, did you make it? We don't do that. We're not salespeople. We're here to assist you, teach you, open your eyes. Because if you're not, before this podcast today, I'm sure you thought, well, it's just another diet. It's not a diet. It's not a diet. Diets don't work in the long run. And I wrote the darn book about it in 2010, why diets are failing us. Because they are. I mean, seriously, can anybody put in the chat, approach a diet that you think works by lowering calories in, calories out? And, you know, this gets broadcast on a bunch of social media platforms. They make copies and distribute it, and I get tremendous pushback. I don't know what I'm talking about. Wait a minute. I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. But the people that are making comments like that, are they the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world who for 38 years have done over 100 studies on thousands of people and seen the failure of every diet out there? I don't think so. But it's okay. It has nothing to do with me. See, what I love about science, It has no emotions, unlike me. It has no agenda. It has no prejudice. It just is. It's the scientific method. A peer-reviewed human trial study, you can't go higher in medicine. That's why no drug ever gets approved without a peer-reviewed human trial. Not mice, not rats, not a clinical paper, not a scientific paper. That doesn't mean anything in the medical world. It's interesting. But if what they were telling you was so good, they'd want to have a peer-reviewed human trial study. Why? Because once you're published in these big, it's in the public domain and it's irrefutable evidence. I mean, I hope that piques your interest some. And like I said, you can go. Good for you, Carrie. How long did it take you? Yeah, the picture's on the website. And you understand, you already went there. Minimum. I mean, do you see some of the men and women lost like 100 pounds? They have no loose skin. Have you ever seen anything like that before? And I can't show those pictures on here, you know? So, Carrie, I'm just curious, what diet did you go on and how long did it take you? If you don't mind, since I lost weight fasting. Okay, well, I will, sad to tell you that up to 40% of what you lost was lean muscle mass, and you have a 66 and 2/3 a chance of gaining back more weight than you lost. We're not arguing that diets work until they don't. But you have to understand they're based on the wrong principles from a metabolic, from a scientific standpoint of view. When you fasted, you reduced your nutrition drastically. And your brain reacted by slowing down your metabolism, whether you know it or not, okay? But I'm just curious as to how long it took you. No, Carrie, that has nothing to do with it. Carrie, our food in this country is all but nutritionally bankrupt, even if you do organic. So that's an old wives' tale. Let me give you a couple examples. Spinach was analyzed by Cornell University, not me. The iron levels from 1953 to today, the iron levels in spinach have decreased. You ready for this, Carrie? By 4,300%. Okay? But it doesn't matter. It's broccoli, Brussels sprouts. We have over-farmed and over-pesticided. We've created mountains of food, but we've created less and less and less nutrition. Okay? I mean, I hope for your sake. I haven't. Wow. Yeah, intermittent fasting for 3 years. Chris Joe. Yeah, that's wonderful. All I'm saying, the odds are against you that you're going to be able to keep it off. And I promise you, of those 17 kilos, which is about 30, you said 3 months, 30. Well, we have people losing 35 pounds in 3 weeks. Okay. And they're gaining lean muscle mass. So congratulations. And sugar is deadly. There's no question. As a matter of fact, sugar, Harvard did a study. They say sugar is 6 to 8 times more addictive than cocaine. I'm with you. The food manufacturers have put sugar in our food because it's way cheaper than nutrition. I'm with you on that. But all I'm saying to you is that all the studies on that approach you're talking, these researchers, they did that. They put people on fast. For 38 years, they did it. There was no question that people lost weight. The problem was they never were able to keep it off long term. I read to you from this big article why you shouldn't count calories. Well, counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term. The approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. And what's worse, 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict calories gain back more weight than they lost. I hope that doesn't happen to you. I'm not wishing for your demise. I'm just telling you, the science has no emotions. The science is the science. That's what's happening. Maybe you're an anomaly. I hope for your sake you are. But the odds are so against you. That is an antiquated, old, eat like your grandma. No, you can't eat like your grandma. Unless you can go in a time capsule and go back 100 years ago when food had nutrition in it. We're in almost a bankrupt situation with nutrition in food. I explained to you before, in the best organic you could buy, you get 20 out of 70 minerals. 20. Well, wait a minute. Your body needs 70 and you're working on 20. Do you see the dilemma? But it's across the board. It's broccoli, it's spinach. It doesn't matter. We have overplayed our hand. Because nutrition is more expensive than sugar or chemicals. It's not just the sugar they're putting in food. It's the chemicals, this ultra-processed food. Yes, tremendous amounts of sugar, but also all these other chemicals. We have about 1,000 chemicals we use in food in this country that are banned in Europe. Can't even use them. That's interesting. I think that's all going to change. I really do. I think this current atmosphere is going to be very conducive to all of it because we're in it. Do you understand? Johns Hopkins Medical School study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. In 5 years, they're saying 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese. I mean, I hope you're not part of that. I'm not wishing, if that worked for you and you can keep it off, great. But the odds are really against you. Where this is the only medical study ever proven where people, I mean, I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks, 22 years ago, and I've kept it off for 22 years. Hello. That's what should excite everybody. The program, the researchers call it the R2M, race to maintenance. The whole idea is not to get the weight off. That's like a joke. We can do that in a third of the time, a fourth of the time. But the key is to keep the weight off. And these studies, which were started 6, 7 years ago, these people have maintained whatever they've lost now for 6 or 7 years. That's what matters. We're never going to argue that you can go on the Dunkin' Donut diet and you can lose weight. I'm not making it up. But here's the fallacy to counting calories. Because whether it's fasting, whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's Jenny Craig way, they're lowering the amount of food you're consuming, right? But your body needs a minimum amount of nutrition. And when it doesn't get it, it stops fat burning and turns your muscles into fuel for energy. And it's so inefficient, the body slows down your metabolism. That's what's happening. Okay, well you could do that. 7 weeks, maybe not 7 weeks, but it all depends. You'll know really in the first 11 days. I'll tell you this, typically with no exercise, you might. So that's about 5.5 pounds. Yeah, I think you could probably do that. Again, I invite you to go to the website, see the medical proof, and then, because there are people there that certainly lost 40 pounds or more in 7 weeks. I can't even talk about what's on the website because you'd think that we made it. Well, I'd get in trouble on TikTok, and I don't want to get in trouble on TikTok because you're not supposed to talk about before and afters and all that kind of stuff. And I respect that. This has been an incredible forum for me. See, I'd done 1,500 live lectures all around the world until COVID in 2020, and that all stopped. Thank God for social media, or this message would have died on the vine. So would anybody else, Patrick or user 215 or Owan, anybody else like to ask me a question? Robert Smith, 7,000. Not sure. What does that mean, Robert Smith? If you don't mind clarifying. 7,000. I'm not tracking with you. Okay. Getting in late. What's this about? Oh, Robert Smith. This is about this revolutionary new discovery by the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world. They're the top people in the world. For 38 years, they've done over 100 studies, thousands of people. They invented this. They don't have anything to sell. They don't have a product. It's not a lotion, potion, pill, capsule. Here's the bottom line, Robert. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as in 8 weeks of any diet they'd ever studied in 38 years. Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days. Men lost 2 to 4 inches off their waist in a week. In a month, people lost as much weight as it took on diets in a year with no loss of water, gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, what did they do? How did they do it? The problem with all diets is they're based, the website. Okay, let me put it. I'm going to explain it to you right now, I promise. Just let me post the website. Somebody just asked me about the free website. So we have a free medical website that you can go to. I promise, Robert, I'm going to explain it to you here in just a second. Okay, you all can see it now, the new health conversation. So Robert, what are they doing? So the researchers knew that the problem with diets, it has nothing to do with calories. It has to do with the fact we have a minimum amount of nutrition that we need in order to run all our organs. When they put people on any diet, and any diet out there, you're reducing the amount of food you're consuming, but what they don't tell you is you're reducing the amount of nutrition. So the researchers, after 38 years of failing, they said, could we lower the amount of food we consume, but not lower the amount of nutrition? That was the theory. They didn't know if it would work. So they limited the amount of food that you would consume. 30%, you get a grocery list that you go to the grocery store, fats, carbs, proteins, salads, etc. But the other 70% came from 5 food groups that come from around the world that other suppliers had found in Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. And those 5 foods made up what the researchers call the world's most perfect meal. Let me go back one more time. The researchers don't sell you anything. We don't sell you anything. So you buy 30% of your food directly from the grocery store with a list. The other 70% you buy from the suppliers, okay? So now they have the ingredients to do this protocol, right? Which is called R2M, Robert. Race to maintenance. I'll get into that in a moment. So what they did, they created 2 completely different ways of consumption that had never been tried before. One was called protein pacing, where 5 days a week, people had 4 meals a day. 4. They started with the world's most perfect meal, no food from the grocery store, lunch from the grocery store, a third meal from the grocery store, and a fourth meal at the end of the day from the world's most perfect meal. Then 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting, okay? On those days, no food from the grocery store, only these 5 foods, 4 times 4 meals, about every 2 to 3 hours. And what were the results? Like I said to you, that men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year on diet, lost no water, and by the way, no one was allowed to exercise. And not that the research is against exercise, but they wanted to eliminate it as a factor. They gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass in 8 weeks with no exercise, no gym, no push-ups, no nothing, okay? But that's the last reason to do this. Also, in a month's time, they saw blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides all come down dramatically. And for the first time in history, they measured inflammation, which is the underlying cause of every disease out there. It came down in a month by 25%. People's hunger came down 41% in a month. And in 8 weeks, people shrank their belly fat or the visceral fat, that's the fat around our organs, by 33%. And in addition, when they measured through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was, in essence, assisting the body in detoxification. They measured for herbicides and pesticides and Scotch Guard and even plastics were coming out of the body. This is not a diet. It doesn't work. I know people get really excited about the number on the scale, but honestly, that's the last reason to do this. The reason to do it is to maximize our quality of life potential, our health potential, if that's maybe a better way to describe it. So hopefully that makes sense. I read this about about this. Scientific Mirror, I read about 3,000 years ago? Wow, not quite sure. Yeah, they did genetically mess with food. Yeah, life, it's behind him. I don't get beautiful life, it's behind him. I'm not sure what you're talking about. But anyway, Robert, hopefully that makes sense. And then Robert, let me put the website again for any of you. You can go there for free, okay? And the important thing is we won't contact you if you go to that website. That's not what we do. So don't think you're going to go there and you're going to get a phone call from us. That's not what we do. But if you like what you see, because you're going to get to see the before and after pictures, which have not been altered, although you think they were. There's an interview with the ¡1 nutritional research physiologist in the world, the top person. And it's amazing. I would say this, that nearly 100% of the people go to the website, sign up for a free, and it's a free personal consultation with one of our coaches because we don't know anything about you. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain weight? Do you want any meds, et cetera, et cetera? We have people as young as 2 doing this. We have people at 90. We have a man with a heart transplant. We have people with a kidney transplant. I mean, and we're not treating, diagnosing, curing any medical diseases. It's just a completely new way of consuming real food. That's a good way to think about it, okay? Now, the key is to get your weight off as quickly and safely as possible and then teach you how to maintain it for the rest of your life. Otherwise, don't do it. Why even do it? Why do it with the expectation that somehow you're going to gain the weight back? That's what all diets do. As I read, you probably weren't here, Robert, when I read from this study why you shouldn't count calories. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. And what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist, Harvard Medical School. Drop the calories notion, Stanford said. It's time for a different approach by concentrating on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming. That's what these researchers did. Nothing to do with Harvard. They figured it out. That the failure of all the diets that ever put anybody on in 38 years was that as they lowered the amount of food, they were also lowering nutrition because our food in North America, which is what they were relying on, organic, is all but nutritionally bankrupt. So now you reduce that amount of food, it triggers in the brain a starvation reaction, it prevents you from burning fat and turns your muscles into fuel. It's that simple. It's human metabolism, that's how it works. It doesn't work on calories, it doesn't even know what a calorie is. So again, would any of you like to put another question or comment? No, my God, no, you can't just take multivitamins because the first thing you need to know about multivitamins is they're primarily synthetic. They're made in a laboratory, for crying out loud. It's not about multivitamins. For example, where are you going to get 91% absorption of amino acids? I'm not sure, Derek, if you were on when I talked about the misconception around protein consumption, how misguided that is based on new research out of Europe in the last 10 years, where they prove that when you ingest a protein, you get all 20 amino acids. 9 are essential, 11 are non-essential. They're the building blocks of life. You're not getting that in a multivitamin. And the key becomes not that you're getting the 20 amino acids, but what percentage, 0 to 100, are we absorbing? Well, in Europe, they proved that like plant-based protein, you're getting 10%. And in animal-based protein, you're getting 30%. They found a source that had 91% absorption of amino acids. And they found natural source vitamins, not synthetic, that are part of this. There was fiber. There's so many other things that made up what they consume. You're not going to go to your local grocery store or your supplements. These are not supplements. They're not supplements. And like I said, 95% of all supplements are synthetic because of shelf life. So they were able to find a source where they had the natural vitamins without any preservatives, etc. Look, here's the point. There are tons of people that have gone on programs that take supplements, etc., that these researchers saw that for 38 years. None of it ever worked in the long run. That's all that should matter to you. It's not a question, can you lose weight? You could do the Coca-Cola diet and you could lose weight. I'm not kidding you. Because, part of it is just the fact that when your body doesn't have enough fuel, good or bad, it's going to slow down your metabolism and you're going to lose weight. But the weight you're losing on all these diets is so unhealthy. You're losing your lean muscle mass, which slows your metabolism. But the worst thing it does, it also impacts your own immune system. Yeah, hello? By losing lean muscle mass. Sadly, I can speak to this. My younger brother in 2011 was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and in 8 months, when he passed away, he was 6'4". When he died, he weighed 112 pounds. He wasted away to nothing. One of the worst things that can happen to someone that has cancer is they lose weight, because the majority of what they're losing is their lean muscle mass. And when they lose lean muscle mass, it impacts their immune system. This is the sad reality of what's going on. You look at every disease statistics. You go back to the 60s compared to today. It's obscene what's going on. Thank God we have drugs. I'm not against drugs. But are they really the answer long term? Or what if you could cut down the amount of the drug you're taking? Because most doctors will tell you if you got high blood pressure or high blood sugar, if you can lose weight, you're going to probably need less medication. But how do you lose the weight and keep it off? That's the disqualifier here. All these diets, yes, you can lose weight. I don't care. We had someone earlier said they lost 50 pounds. Congratulations. But the chances of them keeping it off are almost zero. Okay? Just telling you. Okay, it's not a product. Okay? Yeah, heart is a muscle. You're absolutely right. 1,000,000%. So what we're talking about is this major study published in the Obesity Journal and 9 other of the biggest medical journals in the world. This was discovered by the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world, who for 38 years had done 100 studies, thousands of people, every diet out there. And basically they figured out why diets don't work, because they don't work in the long run. It's not up for debate. And the problem with diets is it has nothing to do with calories. It has to do with nutrition. See, you and me and everybody, we run on a minimum amount of nutrition. When you go on a diet, you lower the amount of food you're consuming, you lower the amount of nutrition. The researchers knew that. They said, could we create a protocol where we could lower the amount of food you consumed, but not lower the amount of nutrition? So it was a theory. How did they accomplish it? First, they limited the food that you would consume to only 30% of the food you're consuming now, but there's proteins, fats. It's a long list of foods you can have, but they also tell you the quantities, okay? Then the other 70% of what people consumed on this came from 5 food groups from around the world, foods you can't buy in the grocery store, from Russia, Mongolia, from Tibet in the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. And those 5 foods made up what these researchers call the world's most perfect meals from a nutritional standpoint. Let me qualify something. These researchers don't sell you anything. They don't have a company. We don't sell you anything. You buy 30% of your food you purchase from your grocery store, the other 70% direct from these suppliers, who, by the way, in the first 30 days, those suppliers, 70% of what you're going to spend, they give you 100% money back guarantee. That's how assured they are. Now, nothing's 100%, of course, but it's so rare when anybody asks for a refund, and there's no gimmicks. If you have, for whatever reason, they'll even pay return shipping. But that's not what's important. So now you had the ingredients. Then they created 2 completely different ways of consuming that you would learn. One is called protein pacing, where 5 days a week, believe it or not, Cali Queen. You have 4 meals a day. You heard me, 4 meals a day. You start with the world's most perfect meal, no food from the grocery store. Lunch from the grocery store list. A third meal from the grocery list. And the fourth meal, the world's most perfect meal, you do that 5 days a week. 2 days a week, you do something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, only these 5 foods 4 times a day, about every 3 hours. And what were the results? In the first 7 days on this, on day 8, when they had people weigh, men and women had lost as much weight in 7 days as in 8 weeks of any diet they'd ever studied. Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days. Men lost 2 to 4 inches off their waist. By the way, no one was allowed to exercise. There was no exercise involved in this at all. And not that the researchers were against exercise, but they wanted to eliminate it as a cause. In a month's time, men and women lost as much weight in a month as a year on any diet, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And the other thing, these studies were started about 6 years ago. They've tracked the people. They've kept the weight off now for 6 years. In my case, I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks, 22 years ago. I've kept it off for 22 years. That's what should interest you. And what you can do if you want, well, that's what I'm going to show you right now. It's not just a matter of getting the food. Those are the ingredients, but that's not the recipe. So let me post it for you. That website right there for you, Cali Queen, it's free to go there. It's the medical proof. We want you, and we won't contact you if you go there. I swear to you, we won't. We don't do that. You get to see the medical proof. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional research physiologist in the world, who he and his team created this, okay? There are before and afters that you will swear that we photoshopped them. There are men and women who lost 100 pounds, no loose skin, for example. It's all free to go there. Once you go there, if you like what you see, scroll down. It says sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. It's totally free. Not only will that coach interview you, but they'll also be your coach if you decide to follow up with this moving forward. But honestly, so Cali Queen, how excited would you be if you could lose a dress size in 7 days with no exercise at all? I mean, and lose as much weight in them. I know it sounds crazy. They have another thing. They actually say, believe it or not, they say, just give us 4 days. Because when some of the people they measured after 4 days, they'd lost as much weight in 4 days as anybody lost in a month on diets. Safely, with no loss of water, and they were gaining lean muscle. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it's not. Because again, we have 10 peer-reviewed human trials medical studies. They're irrefutable evidence. They're in the public domain. Nothing what I'm sharing with you is my opinion. I don't want you to believe me. I've written 4 best-selling books, none of which are on the website. There's no celebrity endorsement. There's nothing to buy there. It's just the medical proof. Because we want you to have the confidence, if you're going to take the time to sign up for a free consultation. If you want to, you don't have to. We're not holding anything back. So it's not like you sign up for the free consultation, then we show you. See, I see these people that want to charge you for their app to give you recipes. Then you get a coach? No. Where's the medical proof? They don't have any. They have 0 medical proof. Go across social media. Show me anybody else that's showing you peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. I've never seen it. I don't know where it would be. So again, you have to understand minimalistic, that on every diet, up to 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle mass. And when you're on a diet, you can't burn fat. You can't. It stops. You're in starvation mode. Okay, just so you understand. That's the problem with metabolism. When you slow metabolism down, you're slowing it down because the body is screaming for fuel. And it won't go, because it's in a deficit, it won't burn fat. That's our emergency store. So it converts your muscles into fuel. So that's, again, another huge misnomer that we've all been led to believe. They'll tell you on these, I saw this influencer on this time restricted eating where you don't eat for 16 hours, eat for 8, said, well, the majority of what you lose is fat. Really? Let's look at a major study now in the Journal of the American Medical Association about this. This is, in my opinion, a gimmick where you don't eat for 16 hours and eat for 8. They said the new research in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that overweight adults who were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily gained almost no benefit from it. And over the course of 3 months, they lost 2 to 3.5 pounds, and most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. But every diet, that's what we're finding. Not us, but the researchers. You're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle. You're not losing fat. Understand that. You're not losing fat. Or you're losing a tiny amount of fat, but you're losing way more muscle than you are fat. And when you gain the weight back, 95% is fat, not muscle. That's the downside. That's why 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic. These diets don't work long term. Again, not my right here. Why you shouldn't count calories. Well, counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight. In the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse, 2/3 of people that count or restrict calories gain back more weight than they lost. So you're going on a diet to gain weight. Did you know that? Or 2/3 of you anyway. I mean, you can ignore the medical proof and you can get all excited January 2nd. Oh, I'm going on paleo. Oh, I'm going on keto. I'm going to do Pilates. Nothing wrong with Pilates or any of that stuff. But it doesn't work. Johns Hopkins Medical School, new study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. They're saying 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese. Honestly, do you think tell me if you think diets are working. It's insanity. It's not. It's getting worse. I talked before, in 1964, about 3.6% of the population was overweight or obese. So now 61 years later, today we're at 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. How bad does it have to get? We're killing ourselves with a knife and fork. We're digging our own grave with a knife and fork. We don't even know it. Because you've got to understand we've substituted nutrition for sugar in many cases, or chemicals that temporarily, satisfy you. Because see, food's pleasurable. That's the crazy part about, not crazy, that's how smart nature is. Otherwise, you'd starve to death. So what they were caught. There's a book called Salt, Sugar, and Fat. I didn't write it. You're all welcome to go get it. Where they proved that the food companies have spent $1 billion in the last 10 years creating something called the bliss point. That's a combination of salt, sugar, and fat, where when you eat the food, it's very pleasurable, but not enough to fill you up. So guess what? You want to eat more. They've addicted us to food. Do you get it? Do you know we have over 2 million people in this country that weigh over 500 pounds? You think that's normal? And these influencers, they're all telling you the same thing, that the only way to lose weight is calories in, calories out. No, sorry. And I know I get tremendous pushback every time I say that. People get so irate. Why are they arguing with me? It's not my research. But how could you look at this research and think that, or look at the statistics that 80% of America are overweight and think the diets are working? Obviously you can do whatever the heck you want. We're not here to judge people. We're not here to make any opinions. We want to give you the facts and then you get to decide. That's a grown-up thing to do, right? Here's the evidence, then you decide. Not an opinion on my part or anybody's part, because the science has no emotions. It doesn't have an agenda. It certainly has no prejudice. It just is. You can deny the fact that they're saying that 2/3 of people that go on diets gain back more weight than they lost. That's up to you. You can go against Harvard Medical School, where they're saying right here in this study that, all I got to do is find it. Oh, here it is. The title of this article is Stop Counting Calories. This is Harvard Medical School. Most people are taught that losing weight is a matter of simple math. Cut calories 3,500, you lose about a pound. But as it turns out, experts are learning that the decades-old strategy is totally misguided. They go on to say, the idea of a calorie in and calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not just antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist, Harvard Medical School. Drop the calories notion, Stanford said. It's time for a different approach by concentrating on what's in our food, not how much food we're consuming. That's what these researchers, that's what they did. Nothing to do with Harvard. They figured it out. That the failure of all the diets in 38 years, over 100 studies, thousands of people, was a flawed principle. That reducing the quantity of food you consumed and as a result, reducing nutrition led to what outcome? That all the people gained all their weight back, because up to 40% of what they were losing was lean muscle mass, which slows your metabolism down. End of the story. That's what's going on. So, yes, minimalistic. Harvard Medical School, minimalistic. They did a study on sugar. And they've proved that sugar is 6 to 8 times more addictive than cocaine. You heard me. Yeah. So you're right. So the food manufacturers, isn't that cool? Let's put sugar in a food to do what? Addict us to the food. Hey, look, I'm going to admit, I love Lay's potato chips. I do. And that old thing, I can't just eat one. If I open the bag, I'm going to eat the whole bag. A little bag, big bag, doesn't matter. So I either surrender to that, or I avoid it. I still eat Lay's potato chips, but I know what the outcome's going to be. But at least my eyes are open. You know, like obviously if you have 10 beers, that you probably don't want to be driving, even if you have 3. It's the same kind of principle. Look, these new studies are they've obsoleted. If you're on any diet now, your it's obsolete. Why would you want to go on a diet to lose lean muscle mass, to have a 2/3 chance you're going to gain back more weight than you lost? I'd love anybody to put in the chat and let me know how in the world you think that works. It doesn't work. I mean, the obesity journal is one of the top medical journals in the world. And in the study where they took the people, one group did this new protocol called ARCHWEM, the other group did the Mediterranean diet, which has been, by the way, the #1 diet 7 years in a row, U.S. News and World Report. So the researchers wanted to go up against the best, right? So on the Mediterranean diet, in the study, it's right in the study, it took people 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds in 8 months. And up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. And when they followed the people 6 months later, they'd gained all their weight back. In these R2M study, men and women with no exercise allowed, they lost 16 pounds in a month, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Which one you're going to do the Mediterranean diet, or do you think you might be interested in this? You're going to do paleo, or you're going to do this? Because in the big studies that were done, I started that before, in the Journal of the American Medical Association, they did a 12-month study, and they looked at 48 different studies. It's called a meta-analysis, which is the study of studies, right? 7,286 people over 12 months, and they looked at the most of whatever, and all the major diets, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, they all looked at them all. And when they measured the amount of weight loss, whether it was paleo or keto, the most to the least, it was 10 ounces in a year. And the weight loss average was about 16 pounds in a year. And they said in the study, up to 40% was lean muscle mass. See, that's what we're up against. That's why in 5 years, we're going to be at 86% overweight and 50% obese. And we'll have more diets than ever. Go to Barnes & Noble. Look at how many diets are there. I talked earlier, this big study I have right here, it's of 110 different diets. 110, I'm sure there's a lot more than that, but we're so desperate, we do this crazy stuff. I mean, some of these diet names are just, they're insane, right? I mean, you're talking about, let me read just a couple here. How about the diet of Sleeping Beauty? I'm not kidding. How about the cookie diet? How about the jaw wiring diet? How about the nibbling diet? How about the F plan diet? How about the chrono diet? How about the Hawaii diet? How about the frozen food diet? Do you see how nuts this has gotten? Crazy? None of them work long term. You're not going to convince me that with 80% of America, I know I keep repeating, but you need to understand, I think, someone has to open your eyes at least to say, wait, maybe you want to look before you leap, before you commit on January 2nd to go on one of these, you're going to lose weight, no question. But you have a 66 and 2/3% chance of gaining more weight than you lost. Does that sound like that's exciting for you to go through the torture of a diet? Because they're torturous. Because you're asking your body to do something it doesn't want to do. It needs fuel. It needs nutrition. So the very diet you went on, you've lowered the amount of food, you've lowered the amount of nutrition, you've stressed your body out immediately. The brain goes, this is survival mode, shut down fat burning, because that's our emergency store. And now we still need fuel. So where does it find it? In our muscles. Every study proves it. And these influencers keep coming on and giving you all this. I don't fault them. They're telling you what they think they know, but they don't know this. No one knew this until these researchers. And these studies were started 6 years ago. But it takes that long before they get published in these big publications. And most people don't understand that a peer-reviewed diet, first of all, it's not like you do your experiment and then you submit it to it and they publish it. They have strict criteria. If they're going to consider publishing your work, it has to be so many people in a very specific scientific way. How are you doing your measurements? Okay, that's just for them to consider to publish it. If they say they're going to publish it, then like in this case, the Obesity Journal, they send it out to other world-class experts like medical doctors and researchers who have one job, believe it or not, and that's to discredit or disprove what you're claiming. Because the journal relies on their reputation to publish these studies that are backed up. And the reason that companies won't initiate on their own to do this, let's say that these researchers have submitted their study to the Obesity Journal, and the researchers, it didn't match up. They'd publish the bad results. That's why no drug ever gets approved, thank goodness, without a peer-reviewed human trial study. And I know sometimes they get it wrong, but you got to have some credibility. You got to have some standard, a scientific standard. Otherwise, you're just relying on opinions with these nice people. And I see medical doctors and chiropractors and dietitians and nutritionists and all this. Not one shred of medical evidence, not one shred that I've ever seen. Why are you doing that? Because that's all we had available to us. If you're on this podcast today, you have a chance to change the rest of your life. The main reason to do this is not to lose the weight. We're going to get that weight off you 8, 10, 12 times faster than any diet you've ever been on. That's the end of the beginning. The key for us, the key for you is to teach you how to keep it off for the rest of your life. That's the only thing that should matter. It's the only reason you should consider this. And like I said, I'm going to put it. Yes. No, it's on the website. It's not in my bio. My bio doesn't. There you go. You want to go. So Callie, you want to go to the new health conversation. All the medical evidence is there. There's an interview with the top nutritional researcher in the world who invented this along with his team, right? The scientific study about food. Okay. Sugars don't addicted to carnivore. The carnivore diet, Aaron, we have a version of it. But again, here's the limitation with the carnivore diet. For example, when you're doing all meat, you're getting a 30% absorption of amino acids. The part that's not converted into amino acids is turned into toxic waste that your kidneys have to get rid of. They're actually called nitrogen catabolites, okay? Now, what's different, so for example, in the carnivore diet, where you're getting the 70 trace ionic minerals that you need, you're not, okay? There's no minerals in meat, all right? So the point is that we do a carnivore version in conjunction with this, because the problem with carnivore, you're still all but nutritionally bankrupt of, if you wanted to create the world's most perfect meal, maybe that's a better way for me to explain it to you. Let's see. So you were asking me about the carnivore. Oh, sorry, Aaron. So what happens is that when you go on carnivore, which works because essentially you're eliminating carbohydrates, that's okay. But you need, if you're going to create the world's most perfect meal from a nutritional standpoint of view, carnivore is way short of what you need to operate at an optimum level. Now, the people we've had that have done carnivore in conjunction with this have had unbelievable results, crazy. But the other thing, they've been able to maintain it. A lot of people on carnivore, they don't know how to transition back into maybe introducing, vegetables or things back into it. That's why, again, we would, if you did go for an evaluation, make sure you're interested in carnivore, and we'll get you one of the coaches who's an expert in carnivore, incorporating this R2M with carnivore. I'm a big proponent of carnivore, but not carnivore on its own. It's still massively nutritionally deficient, okay? Deficient, right? For example, one of the things you wouldn't get in carnivore are adaptogens, those very herbs that come from Manchuria in Russia, that lower stress in the body. I'm sure we could all use that, but also lower inflammation. We have the proof in the studies that inflammation came down 25% in 30 days. Am I making sense, Aaron? And again, Callie Queen, I hope you got it. Go to, and also, Aaron, you can see right there, R2M means race to maintenance. That's the only reason to do this, is to get you to the point where you've lost the weight, and then we teach you how to maintain it. Otherwise, don't even do it. It wouldn't make any sense. You'd waste your time, your money, your effort. No, we're teaching you. That's why R2M is so powerful and so effective, because it's all based on the journey. I think you all agree that a diet is a destination. Oh, I want to lose weight for a wedding. Oh, I've got an anniversary to go to. Oh, I want to, for the new year, I want to be, but it's always a destination. The problem is, now what? What do you do next? That's where it all falls apart. And that's why you've got 80% of America, because none of these diets work long-term. As we just read in that study that I keep, or the article I keep writing, why you shouldn't count calories. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long-term. That's what our R2M is about, long-term results. I mean, you're going to lose weight 10, 12 times faster than any diet. But that's the end of the beginning. The key is to maintain it. Am I making sense to Aaron and everybody else? Do you understand? The reason we want you to go and see the medical proof, because you deserve to have nobody trying to convince you of anything. Doesn't mean we're not going to, if you do a free consultation, we're going to answer your questions, because we don't know anything about you. Are you working out? What have you tried in the past? How old? We have kids as young as 2. We have people 90. We have a man with a heart transplant. We have diabetics. We have people with high blood pressure. Those are different. So it's important. We believe for you, we're not just going to, okay, like we could give you a mimeograph sheet. Here's what you do. No, that doesn't work. Because this is not like, see, I know you're all trying to you're trying to compare it to a diet. It's not. It has nothing to do with dieting. And these researchers, they did 38 years of research, 100 studies, thousands of people on every diet out there. None of them ever worked in the long run. That's why they invented this. That's why it works. And they have 10 peer-reviewed human trial medical studies proving it. They're not up for debate. It's not like, people want to argue. No, a peer-reviewed human trial study, it's already been argued. It's already been examined by the top people in the world. These top medical journals, that's the point of getting published in the top journals. There's about 150 or 170 journals. It's different, with no disrespect, but if you're getting published in the 170th journal, it's not the same as being published. For example, one of the studies is published here, which has nothing to do with weight loss, in Nature Communications. It's the #1 medical journal in the world. This study on this was done not on weight loss, but on the gut microbiome, your immune system within your gut. That's why this is not a diet. It doesn't work like that. Like I told you before, one of the main reasons to do it is to combat this medical syndrome, which I have and you have, every person in the world. T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for being overweight, S for stress. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, a new medical condition, syndrome. Everybody in the world has it. We're drinking, breathing, and eating chemicals. And what our body's doing, it's taking the chemicals and stuffing them inside our fat cells. Now, you got to understand, it wasn't until 2005, Mount Sinai Medical School in New York did the first study on human beings that we were storing chemicals inside our body. So they now had, what would that be, 19 years of research to really alert us what's really going on. Wait till you hear this about these chemicals and what they're doing to us. The Endocrine Society, this is a direct quote from them. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence in obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. They give these chemicals a name, they call them obesogens. Wait till you hear what they say. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds found in soy, artificial hormones fed to animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed in our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen, are you listening, ladies? Blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, are you listening, men? And essentially reprogram us to gain weight. Have you ever heard of obesogens before this podcast? What influences is telling you about the Tito syndrome? None. And I am going to brag a little bit. I did discover it. And a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, is a really big deal. It takes a long time, because what they do, they take your theory and they vet it against the rest of the world. Is there anything similar? Because once they grant you the little R, you're then protected legally, so no one can rip off your discovery. Pretty cool thing. So to all my critics out there, and I have a lot of them, because I'm really shaking the trees. I'm their pet thing about calories. We're going to show you how to reduce calories to lose weight. You're going to show people how to lose weight to gain more than they lost. That's what you're going to show people. I mean, it's just, and like I said, if you go to the website, your jaw will probably hit the floor. Especially the interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss physiologist in the world. Whatever. Why does it cost to be educated to live healthy? If it was free, everyone can be healthy. Well, Vivian, the problem is we are educating you for free, actually. But you have to eat. What I'm saying is that what they created was to make up for the lack, with your best intentions, even if you do organic, of the deficiency in the foods that we're consuming in North America. Okay? Like I said, all the coaching's free. But essentially, the only thing you're buying is the food you're going to consume. You're not buying the food you're buying now. That's it. It's zero. You're going to get a list, if you did it, you'd get a list of fats, proteins, carbs, etc., the foods and the amounts. It's all part of it. As a matter of fact, you also get, if you do it, I forgot to show everybody this. This blueprint for success, which was developed by the researchers, they gave people in the studies, I know you can't read them, all these yellows are tutorials, are daily tutorials. This is why you're doing it, what's going on. It's all free. It's all free. So when you think about it, because you have to eat, you're substituting the dollars you're now spending on food that's all but nutritionally bankrupt and giving you food that can enhance your overall condition for the rest of your life. Does that make sense to you, Vivian? I agree, but that's what's unique about us. Even the website, it's 100% free. There's nothing to buy there. There's no books. There's nothing. I mean, I always tell people, it's not a pun. What do you have to lose by going to the website and seeing the medical proof? And then you get to decide if you want to sign up for a free personal consultation. So we are doing, Vivian, what you're talking about, okay? We're educating you about different food to buy in different amounts at different times in different sequences. That's what it boils down to. And all of that knowledge about, so the ingredients, you have to eat. You have to buy food anyway. So it's not like you're spending twice as much as you're spending now. Most people feel that the 30% they buy from the grocery store and the 70% from these foods around the world, it's about what they're spending now in a month on food anyway. And then all the education's free? I know you think there's a catch. There's no catch. There's no other shoe. Or you can, any of you can do whatever diet you want to go on. Start January 2nd. You're going to lose weight. Then by the next January 2nd in 2026, you're going to be looking for the new diet. I mean, it's getting worse. I mean, right now we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. And in 5 years, John Hopkins is saying we're going to be at 86% overweight, obese. Does that sound like anything that's working? At what point do we just surrender to the fact that what we're doing is the definition of insanity? Because they just keep changing. Paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, zone, Cornish, lose weight for your blood type, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Golo, South Beach. I don't care what it is. They don't work long. You can't justify 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic if you think diets work. Our food in North America is becoming more and more and more nutritionally bankrupt. How do you explain the fact that in 1964, 3.6% of the population was overweight or obese? So what have we induced in the last 60 some years? Massive amounts of processed foods. Do you know when you eat a processed food, for example, that it causes an immune system reaction in your body? So here you're hijacking part of your immune system to deal with the food you're consuming. Did you know that? The whole thing is nuts. The whole thing is completely crazy. And I can tell by the virulent, objections that I get to what you don't know what you're talking about. Really? You don't get on PBS 20 different times. You don't get interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. You don't write 4 best-selling books with MDs, medical doctors, who put their reputation on the line by writing the books with me and putting their MD credentials on the book. I did 1,500 live lectures around the world in hospitals and medical schools and towns. They even flew me to China. And I'm not telling you that to brag. It's a fact. But I will tell you this, with all that academia that I'd been through, for 20 of my 22 years, it didn't mean a damn thing in the medical world, pardon my French. Until 12 or 14 months ago when these medical studies came out. I never had one doctor that would ever do this. Oh, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet. I had no comeback. Now we have 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies. We're here to assist you. Like I said, the only thing you're buying is food you're buying anyway. But it's different food you didn't even know about. And then you get the recipe for free. There's no charge for coaching. That's up to all of you. Do whatever you want to do. So let's see. Ozempic, bro. Ernest Wolf. Do you get to pick the foods? Yes. The regular food, there's a whole long list of proteins, fats, carbs, etc. that you get to pick. Yes. The other 5 foods are set. That's not part of it. So Ozempic, bro. Okay, so Ozempic. Let me just say this. I'm not against the shots, GLP-1s, Ozempic, semaglutide, there's a bunch of them now, right? Because they are helping diabetics and they are helping people that are morbidly obese. But let's go to the science, okay? So I have in my hand a big study in the New England Journal of Medicine on semaglutide. You can go look it up, everybody. Semaglutide, 68-week study, a year and 4 months, okay? Right from the study, the average weight loss in 68 weeks was 32 pounds. That's in 68 weeks. And they said of the 32 pounds people lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. Here's what I can tell you. I'm working with a big clinic in Denver. They have about, I think, 500 people on Ozempic or semaglutide or one of the other GLP-1s. And every person is losing significant amounts of lean muscle mass. given. Everybody coming off the shot, when they stop, they're gaining as much as a half a pound a day. Because what Ozempic does, or semaglutide, it slows down the food moving through your digestive tract. You're full longer, code word, you're consuming less food in a day. But again, you're setting yourself up for failure. Why? Because you don't have enough nutrition. Your brain shuts down fat burning and converts, which is proven. There was a 40% loss of lean muscle mass in 68 weeks on this. Compared to these studies, where men and women weren't even allowed to exercise, they lost 16 pounds in a month, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. And I will assure you, they lost 32 pounds in 2 months or less. And it's all natural. But there are some people that need that extra whatever. I get it. I'm not against it. Do it. But understand the ramifications. What kind of weight are they losing? Lean muscle. There's a thing now, have you seen it? Ozempic face. They look like they're from outer space because they're losing all their muscle mass. That's a given. That's exactly what's happening. And I know it's helping a lot of people. But again, at what cost? You know, it's like you could ingest enough adrenaline into your body where you could probably run 100 yards in 5 seconds. And at the end of 5 seconds, your heart bursts. Do you all understand that we're in a crisis situation? I'm repeating again, I know, John Hopkins. Study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. In 5 years, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese. Does that sound like what we're doing is working? I'd love for any of you to comment on that if you'd like to. So Ernest, does that answer your question about Ozempic or semaglutide in this case? But they're all basically the same. They all do essentially the same thing, maybe little variants, okay? So would anybody else, Douglas or the Shop Panda or Bob or anybody else, like to put a comment, a question, etc.? Wow, I can't believe I've been almost more than an hour and a half. Guess time flies when you're having fun. I was originally going to do this in about an hour, but obviously it turned out that it not. So in closing, what I would say to all of you is you can definitely go to the new health conversation. I'm going to put it one last time. Ernst, I'm putting it right under your name so you can see it. Hold on just a second. There it is, the new health conversation. And go and look at the medical proof. And we won't contact you, but if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation, if that makes sense. So any last, I'm going to go about another 3 or 4 minutes if anybody has a question, and I'll stay on longer if I haven't answered your question, because it's really important that you understand that you can go to that website for free. We won't contact you, and you can sign up for a free personal, please talk more about the chemical burden quickly. Okay. So it's actually, this is what you're talking about, TDOS syndrome. T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for being overweight, S for stress. I'll go through it more slowly for you. So and this is a medical syndrome, registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, that I have, you have, every person in the world. We're drinking, we're eating, we're breathing chemicals, right? And so what the body does is we ingest these to protect us. It first presents the chemicals to the liver. Do you know right now around 40% of Americans have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a disease that in 1967, 1976 didn't even exist, okay? Because our body is so overburdened with the toxins. The liver is literally filling up. Then what the body does, because the liver can't handle it anymore, the chemicals then go, and the body, is this last line of defense, takes the chemicals and stuffs it in our fat cells, specifically what's called our visceral fat, the fat around our organs. In these studies where they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was assisting our body in removing those chemicals from us. That's the main reason to do this. Oh, and by the way, then people lost weight 8 to 10 times faster than any diet. Instead of losing lean muscle, they actually gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. The main reason to do it is to assist your body in detoxification. That's the main reason to do it. The other benefits are, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, those all came down. Inflammation came down 25% in a month. Stress came down massively. People's mental clarity, because these toxins are everywhere in our body. Our body's protecting us by stuffing them inside our fat cells. That's why people complain it's not just how much weight they have, but how much fat they have in their body. Does that make sense to all of you? So I hope, Aqua Pink, I hope was that what you wanted me to cover? I'll expand more on it if you want me to, but does that make sense? The main reason to do this would be to assist your own body in removing these chemicals from the body. And oh, by the way, you're going to lose a whole dress size in No, I'm not. I don't know if you're a man or woman. I'm sorry. I didn't. But most women lose a whole dress size in a week. Most men lose 2 to 4 inches off their waist in a week. In a week. So, again, I'd love to hear conversation from any of you that would like to ask me one last question. Thank you, Susie. I see you gave me an ice cream. I don't even know what that means. See, I'm a researcher. I'm so new to this whole social media thing. But because in 2020, prior to that, I'd done 1,500 lectures all over the world. And when COVID hit, it all stopped. Thank goodness for social media. And I really have been on TikTok, I think, for like less than a year. And we're really growing a huge following because I can say with equivalency, there's no other influence on TikTok or on social media that have peer-reviewed human trial studies. They're giving you opinions. There are peer-reviewed studies on diets, that's for sure. But the results are pitiful. They're pitiful. And that's what we accept as the norm. Just like in the New England Journal of Medicine study on semaglutide, people lost 32 pounds in 68 weeks. And they said right in the study that of the 32 pounds they lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. Do you see? It's just, well, you can decide. There are no side effects, none whatsoever. And the thing that's so amazing about it is that, like I said, part of the reason we do a personal analysis with people is we would know, for example, doll baby, if you're on any medication, like if you've got high blood pressure versus, say, high blood sugar, those are going to be two different approaches, okay? We have a man with a heart transplant. We have people that have had kidney transplants. We have women with no thyroids. And we're not treating, curing, diagnosing, or making any medical claims whatsoever. But this is because at the end of the day, doll baby, it's food. You get it? This isn't a lotion, potion, pill, capsule. It's food. It's just only 30% of the food you're going to consume you buy from your grocery store, and the other 70% from these foods from around the world. You're eating. That's what, someone was saying before, what it costs, the education's free. We don't charge you for coaching education. And all you're doing is buying food. I mean, think about it. How crazy is that? So it's not like you're, on these diets where you're buying your food and then they give you a capsule or whatever. No, so none of it works. Doll baby, do you understand? None of these diets are working. With 80%, honestly, tell me, doll baby, if I'm crazy. If 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, 50% pre-diabetic, 50% of our kids are overweight, and a third of them are pre-diabetic or diabetic, honestly, do you think diets are working? I'd love to know which one you think works, because they don't. And now we have 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies on this that was invented by the top weight loss researchers in the world who don't have a product, they don't have a company, they don't sell anything. We don't sell anything. You're buying 30% of your food from the grocery store. The other food you're ordering from these suppliers who supplied these 5 foods to the researchers. How much, do you see what I'm saying? It's essentially, you're going on this protocol. It depends, but most people say they're spending they've took total food budget now, take 30% of it at the grocery store, and the other 70% pretty much pays for these other foods. Doesn't that sound like a pretty good deal to you? Because you have to eat. That's all you're doing. You're eating, but you're eating differently than you ever had before. You're eating different foods and you can't buy at your local grocery store. You're consuming the world's most perfect meals in the morning and then your last meal, the 4th meal of the day. I know it sounds good to be true when people think there's a catch. The other shoe's going to drop. There's no other shoes dropping. That's it. No, insurance doesn't, because it's all natural. Listen, it's food. So it's not a drug. You know what I'm saying? There's no drug. There's no capsules, pills, pools, none of that nonsense, right? But like I would suggest that you go to the website. I'm going to put it under your name again, doll baby, just so you can see it. Whoops, hold on. And that website is completely free to go there. There's nothing. Yeah, it's food. Yeah, that's what you're buying food and a completely different way of consuming the food that we teach you. It's like nothing you've ever done before. It's not a diet. It doesn't work like a diet. It's totally different. Okay, so there's the website. You can see it there, the New Health Conversation. You can go there. You can see all the medical proof, before and afters. There's an interview with the #1 weight loss researcher in the world who invented this along with his scientists. It's all free to go there. If you like what you see, scroll down. You can sign up for a free consultation with one of our coaches. It's totally free. Not only the consultation, but that coach will follow you the whole time for free. Honestly, if you really look at this, I guess it's almost free. Because all you're doing is substituting the food you're buying now, 100% of the food you're buying now, which is essentially almost nutritionally bankrupt, for food that has massive amounts of nutrition. It's not a pill, potion, lotion, capsule, multivitamin. It's nothing like that. I just thought of that now. That's like really an incredible, yeah, that's really what's going on. So whoever prompted that question about the fact that, let me see if I can find it again. It was a really good point that I think it's a she was making. Yeah, she said, why does it cost to be educated to live healthy? If it was free, everyone can be healthy. Well, again, like I said, the education is 100% free. And what you're doing, you have to eat. So if we educate you and you don't eat, it's not going to work. My daughter gained 20 pounds from depression meds. Yes. Oh my God, Aqua Pink. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it does wonders for for all those anxiety, depression, et cetera. Because again, when you give your body these massive amounts of nutrition, everything works better, including our emotions. And as you probably know, or maybe you don't know, most of our emotions are generated in the gut. So this 10th study, I have it here in my hand, that was published in Nature Communications, is 100% focused on the gut. Because our gut is where we generate our emotions. If you've ever had a tragedy in your life, you don't say, well, I feel like I get kicked in the head or punched in the head. You say, I feel like I get punched in the gut. So this is why it helps so much with any of those conditions, okay? So again, that's why you want to do a free personal consultation with one of the coaches. But make sure you put in the line, so we'll direct you to the right person that has dealt with that before, whether it's kids or adults or whatever the issues might be. Because it's not a diet. Again, everybody come back to the concept. You're buying food. And then we're teaching you a completely different way of consuming food that was invented by the top weight loss researchers in the world. That's how it works. Okay? So I'm going to sign off. Hey, there's Paul's Vitamin House. How are you today? So again, what's so amazing about this is the fact that these 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies, they've essentially have made everything we ever thought about exercise, weight loss, obesity, health, out the window. Okay? So again, I would encourage all of you to go to the website. You can see it there, the New Health Conversation. And if you like what you see, scroll down and sign up for a free consultation, okay? So I'm going to sign off now. And like I said, I encourage all of you to, oh, great, Paul. Thank you. I really appreciate a professional understanding what I'm sharing, because it's really true. And the thing is, Paul, that these researchers who are the top weight loss nutrition physiologists in the world, as you know about physiology, is the study of what the nutrients do inside the body. It's a very rare combination. And he was the head scientist, and they're the ones that invented this. Basically, it's a combination of 30% of the food from the grocery store and 70% from these food sources around the world. But that's not the end of it. The key is a completely different way of consuming the food. And Paul, if you go to the website, which is free, you'll see all that. But I think you'll be fascinated by this interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss researcher in the world. It'll blow your mind. Your jaw will hit the floor. And again, imagine, Paul, we have men and women losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. We have men and women in a month losing as much weight as a year, losing no water weight, and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. So I hope you will go there, because I think from an educational standpoint of view, you'll be very, very pleased with what's there. It's all free. We don't contact people. We don't do that. We're really directing them on, how to buy. Well, we give them a grocery list. We didn't develop it. The researchers did. And then we show them how to buy directly from the suppliers that supplied the 5 foods to these studies. So essentially, people are buying food and getting educated for free on a completely different way of consuming it. Does that make sense, Paul? Can you understand how powerful that is? Because we're teaching them to do exactly what they did within the medical trials. And they even this is what the researchers developed, called the Blueprint for Success, which the people that went through the medical trials, these yellows are all educational videos that they get for free, with the researchers saying, this is day 1, this is what's going on physically in your body, this is why diets don't work, et cetera. I'm sure in the field, yeah, thank you. Yes, food is destroying us, there's no question about it. But we need more people like you that can help us. The New Health Conversation is a movement, and we do have lots of dietitians, nutritionists, medical doctors, PAs, RNs, nutritionists across the board, that because of the fact, Paul, we have the these 10 new peer-reviewed human trial studies published in the biggest medical journals in the world. Like, I'll just read a few of them: the Obesity Journal, the Nutrition Journal, Frontiers in Physiology, Frontiers in Nutrition, Nutrients, and as I said, Nature Communications, which is the #1 medical journal in the world. This will make every diet obsolete. My God, how many of your clients are overweight or obese that have struggled, that, they lose weight, they gain it back, and then they go and look for another diet? Am I preaching to the choir? I hope I am. But again, this is an incredible opportunity for you as a health professional, right? To see for the first time ever, they've cracked the code for obesity, wellness, health in the long run. And really, we're showing them how to buy food. That's it. Well, no, we're showing them more than that, because we're also showing them this new way of consuming, which is really a very, very important component of the whole thing. Okay? Good, doll baby. Again, for everybody, 48. Yes, you're exactly. Paul, I love it. You're just so informed. Gosh, I wish you would have been on earlier to have been supporting me. I didn't have too many detractors today. Usually I have a bunch of them that come on and want to, wrestle with me and whatever. And as you know, Paul, a peer-reviewed human trial study is irrefutable. It's already been scrutinized by the top people in the world, not somebody just giving me an opinion of something they read in a magazine that has no scientific basis behind it. And honestly, Paul, I love it. I love it. Paul, like I said, I think the most important thing is that we have an obligation to society now to not to sell them, not to convince them, but make them aware of what's available if they choose. We can't choose for them. It's like, even if we bought their gym membership, we're not going to go do the push-ups for them. But again, when you think about how simple this is, it's the ingredients and it's how to make the successful outcomes. That's what this is, okay? Yeah, I know it's very frustrating, but you got to understand, Paul, and so in case you didn't know, so I've written 4 best-selling books, Why Diets Are Failing Us, This Medical Syndrome I Discovered, TDOS Syndrome, Toxicity, Deficiency, Overweight, and Stress, the TDOS Solutions, which is the antidote to TDOS, and this book, which is my most famous one, Your Third Brain. I wrote it. I know you can't see the guy in the white right there is the top oncologist in the world and a molecular biologist who's worked with 2 men who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine, and also has been published in the biggest medical journals in the world, and 2 of his papers are in the top 10% of all medical papers ever published. That's the level of person that I've worked with, and I'm clear to say, Paul, I'm not the expert. But I became an expert on the experts, and we're bringing this expertise to the masses, okay? So again, I'd be so excited for you to go and see that interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss physiologist in the world. He's so on this, it's amazing. And these studies, which were started about 6 years ago now, they're changing everything. He's getting calls from the top people at Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley and Oxford and England saying, look, you have made every diet obsolete. Because, Paul, would it make any sense for people to go on diets where what they find is that 40% of what they're losing is lean muscle mass and they're all gaining all their weight back? So again, thank you so much, Paul, and everybody else for being on here today. I'm going to probably do another one, another podcast, probably in an hour. I try and do 3 or 4 a day, assuming that my voice holds up. But for everybody else, I invite you, I encourage you. What is the longest study, your regimen? Thank you. It's now been 6 years, almost 7 years, where they followed these people. I know one gentleman lost 150 pounds. He's kept it off for almost 7 years. So it's really pretty long. And again, it sounds like you're knowledgeable in this field, Mark. With peer-reviewed human trial studies, most people don't understand, if they're a layperson, that in order to get published, first you submit your study to the journals. In this case, the Obesity Journal is one of 10. And they have very stringent criteria, like how many people, what was your scientific method, how did you measure things? Then they decide if they're going to publish it. As you probably know, they don't review the material. They send it out to other world-class experts, medical doctors, and researchers who have one job, and their job is to discredit what you're trying to claim or what you're proving. That's why peer-reviewed studies are irrefutable evidence, because they've already been reviewed by the top people in the world. And this is the only original protocol ever invented, created by the world's top weight loss nutrition physiologists for 38 years, 100 studies, thousands of people. They invented this. And here's the cool thing. They don't have a product. They don't have a company. Basically, what we're doing is we're educating people about what they did in the study, because it's not about what they're consuming. It is 50%. The other 50% is how they're consuming it, and the consumption model. So basically what we're teaching people is, look, here's your grocery list. 30% of your food is going to come from the grocery store. The other 70% come from these 5 foods from around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, South America, New Zealand. You can't buy in a grocery store. So essentially, you're starting from scratch. You got your grocery money for the month. You go 30% to the grocery store. The other 70% pretty much is covered. Maybe it's a little bit more than what they're spending, but they're getting massive amounts of nutrition, and they're getting results that no one's ever seen before, because our coaching is 100% free. Starting with our website. On that website, the only thing on there is the medical proof and an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. And we got 10 peer-reviewed studies, and the biggest, including this recent one in the last 6 months, Nature Communications, the #1 medical journal in the world, that actually had nothing to do with weight loss. It was all about our gut microbiome. The gut, as you probably know, is where a major portion of our immune system rests, along with most of our emotions are created in our gut by the production of chemicals that stimulate what's called dopamine and serotonin in the brain. So it's it's not a diet. It's a completely new way of living life. It's called R2M, race to maintenance. Because the key is to get people to the goal and then teach them how to stay there. And I don't know if you heard me say that, Mark, but I did this 22 years ago. I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks. I've kept it off for 22 years. So again, Mark, I really invite you to go to the website. You can see it right above. Maybe I can post it again for you right below your name. Let's just see if it'll work. Okay, there it is, the New Health Conversation. You can go there and see all the medical proof. And if you like what you see, you can scroll down and you can set up a free consultation with one of our coaches. It's 100% free. We've got medical doctors, we've got RNs, we've got PAs, we've got nutritionists, we've got dietitians, we've got a whole, cadre. I mean, to be quite honest with you, our biggest limitation is we don't have enough coaches. Because now that I've started to do social media, especially TikTok, it's really, really starting to grow. So I'm a little bit, nervous about that, because we don't want anybody doing it, because the coaching is totally free. It's like you go to the gym and they give you a free personal trainer. Wouldn't you take advantage of that? And all we're doing is teaching them the foods to eat, but educating them about how to eat them, because 50% is what they're going to eat. The other 50% is how they're eating it, if that makes sense, Mark, and to any of you, okay? Yeah, so Paul, hopefully you're clear on that website. Let me put it one more time before I can't shut up. I get so excited when people interact, because I don't want to leave anybody behind in terms of having a question that maybe they need an answer to. But really, most of the answers, I would say, are on the website. So there you go, Paul, the New Health Conversation. And also for you, Mark, you can see it, the New Health Conversation. So I invite all of you to go there if you want. You don't have to. But it's free to go there. We won't contact you if you go there. And essentially what the coach is going to teach you is, okay, here's 30% of the food you're going to buy from the grocery store. Here's the other 70%. They'll show you how to order directly from those suppliers. You're not buying anything from us. You're not buying anything from the researchers. Does that make sense? All right? So for the rest of you, this time I really am going to sign off. I got to get some water and whatever. And I'm going to, I'm running into my next one already that I'll probably do here within 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, so everybody have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, because this podcast, I know, goes all over the world. I know that it's like 11 o'clock at night in Bangladesh. Well, doll baby, thank you. We'll try and stop back. Okay, wonderful. All right, see you, everybody. Oh, 3,000.